Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Our subject today is building a business case for implementing an advanced KM or knowledge management solution. So good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Jenny Hepler. I'm the Customer Success and Business Development Manager for ComAround in North America, and I will be moderating today's webinar. So before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again later. The lines have been muted, so questions can be put into the chat window, and we will have time to answer them at the end as time permits. Now, before we dive deeper into the webinar topic, I'd just like to provide you with a short background on who we are at ComAround. So at ComAround, we are the experts in knowledge-centered service and self-service knowledge tools. So besides providing professional services and formal certifications by our team of experts, we also provide pre-populated knowledge which could drive your artificial intelligence, chat, and bot initiatives, not to mention your knowledge base. We make it very easy for you to achieve an ROI quickly with data-driven intelligent knowledge, as well as a user-friendly design in our self-service tool called ComAround Knowledge. We've been in business for over 20 years, and we are the largest independent KCS-verified knowledge management solution provider in the world. And here on this slide, you can see some of our customer logos. And today, we're very lucky to have Bill Pollie, Executive Vice President of North America with ComAround, as our presenter. Bill has more years experience than I'll care to mention here within the knowledge management space, so he is the perfect person to provide the kind of unique insight that you're going to hear about today. So with that said, I'd like to get things started and hand the presentation over to Bill.
Well, thank you, Jenny. And first of all, thanks for everyone that's joining us online today or maybe joining this recorded session. Before I begin today's presentation, I would like to recognize three of our clients that were recognized for outstanding achievement at our recent Inspiration Day. Volvo Cars, Walt Disney Studios, and the University of Oklahoma were all recognized for innovation and for really the accomplishments that they've done with knowledge management. So I'm ready to move forward. And again, hopefully this session will be something that you'll enjoy and have some great takeaways on for today's session. So today's knowledge management organization structure is really focused on a number of different things. First of all, there's a great deal of knowledge that's being used by your organization that's very unique versus things that you can gain from training, from education, or from conversations with colleagues. Experience really is the largest source of workplace knowledge, as well as the most important for a number of reasons, and sometimes the most difficult to replace, as we'll find out in today's presentation. But a workplace basically looks at the tenure of its workforce, and as your workforce matures, you can certainly notice in your own organization people that have that work experience that are sources of inspiration for both colleagues and very important assets for your company as you go to interact with both employees as well as other colleagues and customers ultimately. One of the fundamental principles of knowledge management and successful capture of knowledge, especially the workplace experience, is the reusability and the remembrance of interactions that you have with both employees and with customers, and how do you capture those. ComAround is very fortunate to have a product line that we've developed with our customer input that incorporates things like video like integration to Microsoft bot strategies, and most importantly, multi-language on-the-spot translation in more than 100 languages to make it easy for your customers and for your employees to interact with knowledge. But a big part of the ROI session today will focus as well on the culture that needs to change in an organization. Today we recognize, and I've been to many customers over the years, that recognize heroic behavior by both their employees in dealing with internal support issues in human resources, in facilities, in business process management, in IT support, and for customer interactions that have resulted in a very positive result with that customer. But today we recognize heroic behavior, where one of the fundamental cultural shifts should be not just to reward the behavior, but how they encapsulate that interaction that was successful and make it easier for the next person that has to go through the same situation. So knowledge management, in addition, is not just a static implementation. Your company has new product line launches, is releasing new infrastructure and architecture, advanced technology, going through organizational changes, mergers, acquisitions. Knowledge is one of the most dynamic and important part of your organization assets. And in order to protect that asset, it's very important that a cultural change also exists in addition to anything that you do on a systematic basis. So let's talk for a moment about what's happening in the world of that unique workplace knowledge. Gartner, a leading analyst firm, estimates that almost 23% of a company's unique knowledge walks out the door every year in terms of people that retire, planned attrition, workforce optimizations, and things that go on in organizations all the time, and I'm sure by viewing the attendee list today, in organizations like yours. In many cases, the lack of the preservation of that intellectual property, that unique knowledge, really has an impact on the way that people view their jobs. Do they have enough information? Do they have access to people to get the knowledge to excel in their job, to get good performance reviews, to feel good when they work in the workplace as well as when they leave the workplace, that they're doing the best job possible for your company? Not only is it walking out the door, but as we'll see, it's very difficult to replace and to get people up to speed. Let's take our first example today in the world of return on investment, and let's target an enterprise type of function that has to do with employee turnover in most organizations, and we'll use some very accepted sort of best knowledge principles as well as accepted market statistics to take a look at one of these examples. Number one, it's been proven in the market that most companies have an average of less than 3 months onboarding formally for new employees. And in many companies, that's less than a month, or in many cases, there is no formal onboarding program for new employees. That being said, it's also estimated that it takes anywhere between 6 months and 12 months to get a new employee fully up to speed on the things they need to know about performing their job. In addition to that, what's most important here is that new employees can spend as much as 30 hours per month working ineffectively because they're waiting for information coming from colleagues. And again, there's reasons for that, people being on vacation, people being in meetings. If you're a global company, how do you reach people with that unique company workplace knowledge to get the answers you need? So in many cases, what they do is they're certainly waiting for information, but in many cases, they try to develop that information on their own. They review their workplace manuals, and in many cases, this results in either duplication of work or for them to come up with answers that are inconsistent with company best practices. So let's take our first ROI example, and I've put together a slide here that, number one, based on the audience today, there's a number of companies with all different size employee populations. I'm going to be using a turnover rate of approximately 15%, which is sort of industry average across various companies out there. And I'll use an hourly rate of $35 an hour which is traditional market statistics for new hires coming into most organizations. We've heard a few moments ago that the months to take a new employee into a fully productive state is 6 months, and that we're going to be estimating the 30 hours per month are things that they're doing that's unproductive, that has a direct relation to workplace knowledge that's been gained by experience factor versus any training or formal education. The last two circles, we're going to take a very conservative approach here. We're going to say that workplace knowledge, maybe we can capture 25% of that unique workplace experience, and we're going to say that 75% of the time, those new employees will look there to see if that knowledge exists. So let's take a look at what kind of financial impact this could bring about simply by memorializing that 25% of that workplace experience that you can capture by reinforcing a cultural shift to sharing knowledge. And again, if you're 5,000 employees, you can see a productivity gain of almost $900,000 that you can use to justify in terms of putting programs in place to really make sure that people are incented to share workplace experience. Let's expand this, if we can, for a moment, to more tenured employees. And they face a lot of different challenges in addition to being onboarded in the company and dealing with change. They're dealing with deadlines. They're dealing with responsibilities for managing people. And certainly they're dealing with things that have to do with performing their jobs in the most efficient and timely manner possible. Organizations that have tenured employees, again, will look at 6 hours per week to connect with unique knowledge they need to perform their job. So much less, but certainly with the instance of global organizations and people that are not sharing knowledge effectively, 6 hours per week we think is a very conservative estimate. This can also be compounded by adding as many as 8 hours per week for the same kind of things that the new employees went through. Maybe they're going out on Google, or they're searching the web for an answer, or maybe they're just trying to answer that question the best they can based on a deadline, and it does create a duplication or an inconsistent answer with, again, what company recognizes as best practice as gained by that individual that's reliable for that knowledge. We'll do a similar calculation here. We'll raise the hourly rate up slightly, given that there's a tenured employee, and that rate of pay will vary across executive levels as well as entry-level positions. We'll again use an estimate. We won't factor in the additional 8 hours. We'll simply use 6 hours per week as time spent in tracking down that institution and unique knowledge that's appropriate for those people to do their job. And again, we'll take very conservative estimates and saying that 25% of that knowledge is initially institutionalized in a place where people can find it, and we'll look at 75% again as the rate by which people will go to that source of information to try and find it before taking those other steps. Here's where we start to see some dramatic return on productivity and in time spent in searching down information simply by sharing information. So going back to one of my earlier slides, that was an interview I did with a major CEO or CIO of a corporation. He made a phrase that I memorialized in all my presentations, which is that we hire people for what they know and not what they share, but not sharing knowledge costs us money. So this is certainly a dramatic impact of a result of not sharing information. Excuse me. And as you can see, based on your employee population and the accepted rate of pay and other factors I've put in here, this, of course, can vary, and we realize that this is unique to every company we do ROI studies with. So by no means is this gospel in verse, but certainly something you can look at to see the kind of dramatic impact that sharing knowledge can have on your company. Let's drill down a little bit because many of you won't be starting initially with enterprise knowledge, but that you'll factor in some departmental capabilities or some service aspects of your business that are in the most need of providing this kind of support, service, and knowledge is a very important part of that. So in this particular situation, we'll start with IT support, which many of you have expressed an interest in, and we'll talk a little bit about the kind of factors that go into establishing an ROI and business case when it comes to supporting your organization's IT initiatives. And again, when ComAround has developed this very sophisticated modeling system, and there is no one-size-fits-all. But what we have done is we've worked with leading analyst firms like Gartner and Forrester and others. We've also worked with many of the different leading industry analysts, as well as organizations like the Help Desk Institute and other major organizations to ensure that we're melding that information with our own community information that we've gained from implementing more than 250 global clients for knowledge management. And what's consistent about this process is that, number one, we need to understand the baseline metrics. We need to look for real occurrences of information in your company today, whether it be the number of tickets, your success or failure as it pertains to self-service, the cultural readiness of your organization to accept various kinds of initiatives, what kinds of technology you're forecasting to implement over the next 12 to 36 months, and really do an examination of not just the current trends, but the historic trends in your business as it pertains to providing support. Because again, 68% of every call that takes place, according to Gartner and Forrester, is known as the mean time to resolve. And that's the largest portion from beginning a call to resolution is finding the answer. And we believe that's where knowledge can have the greatest impact for you and for your employees. The second thing we do in our study is to forecast a conservative approach to improvements. If you have no self-service today, is it reasonable to assume that with the right executive leadership and promotion and marketing that you can gain 10% adoption from your employee user base? Or would you be more aggressive and having a knowledge treasure hunt that results in potentially 40 to 50% adoption for maybe the top 10 issues that you no longer want to handle from a help desk perspective? And again, we work with you, and in this particular instance, an example, to be conservative, but also to run multiple models with our clients from very conservative to more aggressive so that you can see the impact and judge what kind of leadership and what kind of organizational change you need to achieve your various goals. We talk about the historical and the future initiatives as well, but again, the bottom line is show me the money. What happens when knowledge becomes a critical component in the area of IT support? In this particular example, for a company that's averaging 10,000 calls per month from an IT perspective, we're showing it at the support level only a return on investment of over $1 million annually in productive time gained. And productive time can mean a lot of things. It can mean developers of your products and technology being called in escalations that are no longer required in escalations because knowledge is there where they can continue to innovate the technology infrastructure for you. And it can also mean the ability for you to create more and better knowledge to work with your constituents in other parts of the company in learning management, in employee onboarding, and in institutionalize a culture of sharing so that we can have impact on those other two examples I showed you earlier. ROI can be a tricky subject. And again, we're not making any claims here, but each organization can make their own business case for articulating the ROI. And what's most important is not only that you align with the company goals and objectives that we'll talk about a little bit later, but that you can articulate the ROI in the language of the boardroom, both in hard dollars that are saved and productivity gains, as well as intangible benefits that could have a dramatic impact on the culture of your business, the reduction in turnover of your staff, and the real shift to reducing risk associated with IT projects through better communication and more employee interaction. I'll give you another example as well. Many of you on the call today have an interest in ComAround as it pertains to better servicing your customers. It's a very important part of the ComAround business and a very important part of ROI. Customer loyalty is certainly something that each and every one of us are trying to put in place. And the age-old statistic still stands true that for every dollar you spend to protect and keep a client, it costs you $10 more to gain a new client in the same kind of revenue and loyalty process. So the investment is definitely justified in terms of what you can do to increase the customer experience, certainly in today's internet age, as things are going forward in a way that customers are shopping real time and looking for the best possible experience. But some of the feedback from the Eplica's most recent survey regarding knowledge management in the customer service space reveals some very disturbing facts that they've uncovered from their survey information. And again, I won't read all of these, but certainly we've all had experience as consumers, and we don't want a knowledge person on the phone with us trying to help us solve our problem where they know less than we do. And we certainly expect in the age of now that answers will be quick, efficient, and accurate and consistent. And these are the kinds of things, again, that a shared knowledge culture like ComAround can address. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that we're hearing. And again, this one is according to the call center executive report of performance. You'll see that knowledge management is something you all recognize. If your initiative on the phone today is regarding customer service, you will see that knowledge management is a key buying priority and a key fundamental part of what people are shopping for. And we happen to be the beneficiary of that, certainly here at ComAround. But most importantly, if you look at the other topics underneath knowledge management, I can certainly make a case that each and every one of those, in order to be successful, would rely on knowledge as a key component. As an example, if you think about enabling chat, or if you think about enabling some new bot technologies, or as we'll talk about later, some new artificial intelligence initiatives. Artificial intelligence, as an example, without real intelligence, or opening up chat to 6 customers and not having the knowledge to answer their questions, only compound the problem of providing a better support experience. And we certainly are very focused on that particular topic. It's also come to my attention in many cases in my visits and talking to executives, both from a chief customer care officer to the head of IT and CIOs, that what I used to hear quite often is that our customers are used to calling the help desk, or our employees expect concierge service, and therefore our help desk is a very important part of having that personalized communication directly with those people. What we're finding today is that everybody in the marketplace has experienced a consumer experience. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook have all crossed generations. And what was the case maybe just a matter of 2 years ago, if we were to take the time and do the kind of surveys of our employee and customer population, I think what we'll find is very different than a question we may have asked 2 years ago. And even organizational employees now are shifting away from, I'm being judged by the value of the knowledge that I contain personally, and I want to hold on to that knowledge as much as I can because that's my value as an employee, to shifting gradually to, I want to be part of a community, I want to share, I want to look to peer-to-peer support and help my colleagues do their work. And customers not only expect a concierge experience when they're in your brick and mortar shop, but they also expect a significant presence online that they can shop, they can ask questions, and they can go to your system and have a world-class experience in their time without calling anyone when they feel like it's appropriate, even at midnight or 2 in the morning. And employees feel the same way. And poor quality of knowledge, both from a customer point of view and from an employee point of view, has a dramatic effect on customer loyalty as well as employee turnover. So again, a dramatic shift in this market. The additional topic I'd like to talk about from an ROI perspective has really been around the knowledge space for some time. But for those of you that are unfamiliar with the term shift left, there's a great deal of money to be saved in an area that we focus on quite extensively when we provide our ROI engagements to our prospective clients and clients. Shift left is simply a way by which you can move the highest level of service to the lowest possible delivery method. And in this particular example, I'll use an IT support example where maybe a call has been escalated to a level 3 person who's a developer. That person is very busy developing innovation for the company, doesn't like to have calls escalated or bugs or things associated with the system. So in a shift left methodology, we're using the principle of just-in-time knowledge development as really espoused by the KCS methodology that Jenny mentioned earlier. So you're either using knowledge, flagging it, fixing it, or adding it real time. So in this case, the level 3 person would not only solve the problem, but create a knowledge article so that it could be used successfully the next time at a level 2 person. A level 2 person that's been escalated a call, his job is to document and share the knowledge of that particular instance so that the next time that call's in, that customer experience can be satisfied at a lower support level, and in many cases at level 1. While the level 1 people are constantly on guard and looking for calls they're getting on a repetitive basis that can be handled at a level 0 or self-service type of methodology. By accomplishing this sharing of knowledge and creating of knowledge real time, you're able to not only shift the user experience, but to shift the support without sacrificing compromising any level of support down to a lower level at a lower cost level. A very significant thing in not only deflecting calls, but eventually eliminating calls to the desk altogether. Now we'll talk for a moment about the return on investment that you may be considering regarding new technology initiatives. And the hot subject right now is artificial intelligence. And the shiny objects that are out there right now include machine learning, include bot technologies, scripted interactions, and artificial intelligence. One of my favorite quotes that I heard recently at a Microsoft webinar was that these new technologies are getting all the attention and will enable the CIOs to make bigger mistakes with more confidence than ever before. And what is being documented and really warnings are going out from organizations like Gartner is I think they're estimating 95% of all artificial intelligence projects for organizational knowledge will fail unless companies get their act together regarding knowledge management and the underpinnings. And when you think about it, you don't have to be an analyst to realize that artificial intelligence really relies on real intelligence. And in many cases, unless you're building up that data of what people are clicking and how they're achieving that positive human interaction with employees or customers, and unless you're capturing that and rating it and showing how it's done, the artificial intelligence tools really can't provide you much. So sometimes chasing the shiny object isn't hopefully what Clippy was in our organization structure back in the day. So now we'll move on for a moment and talk about some of the other technologies and approaches to new technologies that are emerging. For those of you that have heard of digital twins, it's really a fascinating type of modeling system that's relying on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and some other new technology. But it has a very different profile than what many of you face in justifying an advanced knowledge management system for your internal organization. In this particular example, we've created a digital twin of aircraft engine and maintenance support. And the way we've done that is through the Internet of Things, where we're able to instantaneously record things like temperatures, hours in use, maintenance schedules, things that can be recorded in a very standard way, and things that can be measured real time through the interaction of RFID devices or other devices that can give us direct feedback and, in effect, create a digital image or a digital twin of an actual physical asset. We're also hearing in the same mode about organizations successfully using knowledge management, or not knowledge management, but artificial intelligence in the medical field, the agricultural field, maintenance of elevators and other assets. But what they have in common is the ability to store standard data that can be measured over a long period of time. And in many cases, they have years and years and years worth of medical records, temperatures, symptoms, blood pressures, things that are consistent across their organization analysis. Unfortunately, in an organization, we don't have those kinds of statistical measures or standards or historical data without having stored it in a knowledge management system that starts to track that data over time. So what an effective knowledge management system enables is the ability to track those successful human interactions, to track the number of clicks it takes to get there, and to work with you and the artificial tool sets and other machine learning to start to do predictive knowledge so that when a new employee shows up in a new office, the system knows that the most common questions that that employee would ask is, what is the local printer in the office? Or how can I get a security card for that office during my visit? And instead of waiting for that employee to ask the question, the knowledge system can actually predict, based on the relevance of the kinds of questions and who the person is, the kinds of knowledge they would need to be more productive. I'm going to close with a couple of slides regarding ComAround and how we can position you to take advantage of these kinds of return on investment initiatives and the adoptions of new technologies that will take your organization and your knowledge initiatives to an entirely new level. The first one is an architectural slide that talks a little bit about how ComAround has really organized its system in a way to be sort of ticketing system, CRM system agnostic, very strong relationships with organizations like Sharewell, Microsoft Dynamics, ServiceNow, and other kinds of ticketing and case management tools. The ability for all 250 of our clients were to use knowledge management systems that may have been delivered with those products. But their vision and their need for advanced capabilities really drove them to ComAround, along with our experience and proven methodology. The other thing you'll notice is that we're very much Microsoft-centric. And what I mean by that is I'm often tempted when people ask me how many developers ComAround employs to say more than 10,000 developers really working on our architecture, our reporting, our advanced technologies like AI and bots, because we're able to take advantage, because of our architecture, of a proven company and a leader in technology that makes it very easy for our clients, and in most cases, a very safe bet to look at ComAround from a technology perspective. The second thing I'd like to cover is sort of giving you an understanding that not all knowledge systems are not created equal. And again, when we look at the ComAround philosophy, it's really made up of three main factors of reasons why companies come to us and areas that we focus on as a leader in the knowledge management space. The first is knowledge itself. And again, in today's session, we've learned a little bit about how sharing knowledge and having that foundation and principles in place of knowledge and the methodology surrounding it will really have an effect on your business in many different ways, from the support processes in IT, customer support, business process management, to an enterprise type of setting for communicating unique workplace knowledge for all employees. The second is community. We're very blessed to have 250 great global clients that allow us to implement new technologies, to share their experiences, to share their successes as well as their failures. And we've learned to bring those successes to other clients in the market through a whole series of best practices and innovations that are truly second to none in companies focused around knowledge management as their business. And the last is data. Every click, every successful interaction, every search for knowledge, every successful search and unsuccessful search for knowledge is documented within the ComAround system. And in many cases, we use the community to predict what kind of knowledge is necessary based on our customers' feedback. So in particular initiatives like a Windows 10 rollout, we can almost tell you, if you're thinking about rolling out Windows 10, what kinds of questions you're going to be getting from your users. And in the area of IT support, we provide those answers and those knowledge articles in the form of the ComAround article packs, which are delivered to each of our IT support clients. But there's other factors as well. And again, we talked briefly about the architecture, but being able to surround all of this with market-accepted tools, open APIs, a very secure architecture and hosting platform has given companies not only the ability to work within the Microsoft framework, but also to extend that out to enable other parts of their organization through standard API mechanisms and other kinds of system integrations, whether it be with Amelia or Cortana or other devices that they're thinking in terms of virtual agents or other front-end type of omni-channel delivery mechanisms. So again, these are the kinds of things that I'm very proud to bring to the table, and that is part of every one of our analysis when it comes to ROI. But there's more in terms of being successful in the area of knowledge management. This happens to be a document or a picture from a recent Deloitte white paper. I found it very, very hit home from my perspective in terms of bringing home to you what would be not only the benefits from an ROI perspective, but what you need to do in terms of speaking the language of the boardroom that's ultimately going to result in your success of your project in competing with wallet share for other initiatives within your company. The first is that tactical decisions will rarely yield strategic benefits. We do have companies that are using knowledge for very small projects within their organizations. We also have organizations that are using knowledge enterprise-wide. But regardless of how you use it, it should align very succinctly to the top-end strategic goals of your company. How does it contribute to the objectives and the company business goals and strategy when you look at positioning knowledge? If you don't have executive support, if you don't have the buy-in for the cultural and process change, people will fall back to what they're used to doing. So again, between the top box in this particular picture and the bottom box, you'll see the things that are necessary in order for you to be successful. Secondly, my father used to tell me, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Understand the path to knowledge is a journey. The path to success in knowledge is a journey. It's one of those solutions and partnerships that you form with a company or a solution from a company that is a long-term journey. And with that journey comes the ability for us to map out a course step by step, short-term, medium-term, long-term, in terms of where you want to be with your knowledge initiatives. Have a plan, have measurements, and most importantly, a methodology that keeps you on track, and a company that can work with you not just to deliver a software product, but to stand by your side over that journey. So I'll turn it back over to Jenny right now. And again, on behalf of ComAround and the team here, I'd like to thank all of you that are on the phone today and are listening in via this recording for your time, and hope that this has been a rewarding session.
Thank you, Bill. We hope that everyone found today's webinar very valuable, with many takeaways to begin building your business case for a knowledge management solution. And at this point, I would like to open it up. We have a couple of minutes left. If there are any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat area. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in at the moment, but I'm sure there will be some after the webinar. So that's why we've designed this last slide. So whether you're a department or an entire organization or anywhere in between, we can help you to take this information a step further by arranging a personal consultation for you with one of our knowledge experts for free. So if you're looking to build a business case and you want to find out specifically what kind of ROI and benefits that you could expect, then please go to the link below, or you can contact us directly. Now this link is not clickable on this slide, but it will be sent to you after the webinar in an email with the video recording. So we'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us today, and have a great day.